and I am working as a project support to Learn with Pride. Of course, some of us who have been some of these past calls and the current calls already know me. We've encountered several times. So I want to use this opportunity to see, kind of really let us know how this agile project management came about, and you know, tell us how this agile methodology, came about, and how is it really done, and what are the key things that as a product, somebody who is training for Scrum Master, product owner, maybe any agile, working in agile environments, what you should know and things you need to create, at least things you need to bear in mind before, whenever you're delivering agile project, right? So this training is going to be 2 sessions, right? So the first part of it is going to be kind of theory part of it, which is what we're going to do today. Like, give us overview, a better understanding of what agile project management is all about and how it's being implemented, right? And also talk about the framework, under the agile umbrella, the framework you can use. Of course, I know some of us only think it's Scrum that we use. No, there are so many other ones that you can make use of to deliver your agile project. But the most popular one is Scrum, which is why everybody, not only us, is adopting Scrum. Then this session 2, we are going to talk about will be, so the session 2 of this training is going to be, we're going to go, this one is going to be practical aspect. Of course, some of us, like I said earlier, who have worked with me knows that whenever we are in this session, we do a lot of things that will make you to stand out, be confident in yourself and be able to deliver as a project manager, product owner, scrum master, and also developers, right? So for the second session, this is where we're going to make use of Jira and Confluence. Of course, we've learned Jira and Confluence, but then this time around, I'm introducing something I believe that is going to marvel us, like, things we may not, have heard about before, and other, some things, new things, of course. So I would advise everybody to always, join the session, try to make out time to join this session too. So in that session, we're going to will let us know, or kind of tell us what capacity plan is all about, right? So capacity plan, this is first thing you do before you start your sprint, right? To know your team availability and all that. I will show us how it's done on Jira, and also, release that. Then tell us original time estimate, how you can calculate workload, track all that. Then I'll show us how to write a report to stakeholders. Like if you want to report, I say like showing them, giving them daily update, like updates. How do you involve your stakeholder? When I mean stakeholder, the management team of your company, of course, management team, they are not Scrum team. So how do you involve them? How do you let them know where you guys are currently in your project? I will introduce us, like I will show us that. Then I will also go further to show us how to write bug reports, right? Of course, testers knows this, but Scrum Master, you should also know this. And in fact, generally, teams should know how to write bug reports and what it entails. Then I'll also show us how to work in, as a Scrum Master, how can you manage Scrum boards, multiple Scrum board in a single board? How do you manage multiple projects? So I will show us that. Then create dashboard, of course, we'll do that. Some of the guys already know how to create dashboards. So I'll go through, show us how to do sprint retrospective and retro, and also show us they introduce another conference they call Confluence Whiteboard, which is more interactive and very, very nice. Right. That's what we're going to use to close this training. Then I'll also go ahead to teach us release planning, how to, as a product owner, how do you plan for release planning, link of dependencies in your roadmap. Then prioritization techniques in Agile. So we're going to make use of Moscow, right? Then I'll also close, do all this. So that's what we're going to do in session 2. But for today, we're only going to focus on uh, the theoretical part of it. So we're going to take it gradually right now. So so I will not just help let us pay very good attention. Then if you have any questions, you can actually raise up your hand, and Mr. Akin will call my attention to that, because I'm sharing my screen. I'm not really seeing anybody. So now Agile project management, right? How did it come about? So, please mute yourself. You know you're not talking, please. Are we good?
Yeah, you can continue. Don't worry. I think I know what to do. Please, for the final time, please, if you're not talking, mute yourself. I don't want to mute everyone because you might want to ask questions. If you are not talking, please mute yourself. Thanks.
Okay, so now, of course, we know that software project these days in, tech, all about tech, software project, delivering projects using software development project. It has been, it's something that has been happening even, in the 1970s and all that. They've been building softwares and all that. But then in those early stage, right, 1970 and all that, there is like agile was not in vogue, right? So there's nothing like agile methodology, right? So in those olden days, they have been building software project, releasing computer, so many apps and all that, right? So that in those days, they have been using what they call waterfall approach to deliver softwares, right? So waterfall approach, or you call it a traditional method or predictive approach to deliver software development projects, right? So, and this waterfall methodology, right? So it requires a lot of heavy planning in the sense that a lot of documentation are involved, and this traditional method, that is a waterfall, it requires that you need to get the actual, you need to know every detail that the you need to have a clear goal of what you are going to build. For instance, you are to build maybe a mobile app in those days, right? You need to know from beginning to end of it. Like you need to have every detail you need for that project at hand without even saying, so let's work first. Maybe later in the project, we'll discover what we are going to do. No, you need to know everything. So because of that, a lot of things were happening. Is a very difficult one. So of course, you can see this is waterfall, how it's, how it's done, right? So first of all, you start by planning, then create, review, and release, right? So of course, we know that in project management, we have basically two methodologies, right? That you can use to deliver project. Of course, somebody will tell you it's three. Yeah, I agreed, which they call hybrid. So the first methodology you can use to deliver your project is waterfall, right? So over here, I just wrote that you can
Sorry.
use.
Yeah, Emmanuel,
Yeah,
you can. Yeah, I've muted everyone. Please, if you have any question, you can raise your hand. No one will be able to mute themselves again. So if you have any question, please kindly raise your hand and you'll be asked to unmute. Thanks. Emmanuel, over to you.
So we have two project methodologies, right, that you can use to deliver your project. One of them is traditional or waterfall approach, which I said that it requires a lot of it follows a linear sequence, right? So if you are using waterfall to deliver projects, it has starts out with initiating, plan, execute, monitor, control, and close out the project, right? It goes down this way, kind of dropping like water. That's why they call it waterfall. You can see, it follows a linear sequence, dropping on. And the common thing among them is that it has at the end it has a final outcome, which is just one objective, right? To deliver, maybe to build something, right? Now, this waterfall approach now, it requires heavy upfront plan. What do you mean by heavy upfront plan? Like I explained earlier, you need to know everything you need to deliver, to know in that project. I'll take, for instance, you want to build a house, right? Now, you call a civil engineer, maybe I'm the client, you call a civil engineer, you need to tell the person, what do you really want to, what kind of house do you want to build? Is it 4-bedroom flat? I need to tell him everything that is supposed to be in that plan. Like, sorry, your architects, you need to tell your architect who is going to draw the plan for you, everything you need in that house, not when they start, after he has finished developing the plan, and you come back and tell him, no, you need to go and do this one. It requires what they call change, right? So in waterfall projects, change is very expensive there because any changes you are making is, it will have least to maybe you're going to discard the previous thing you designed and all that, right? So that is why it's this way, and it has a clear objective. Like I said, it must know everything that you need to know about it, and also you can use it for simple projects, and not too complex, right? Now, the next methodology we know is Agile, right? So Agile project follows what we call iterative, it follows what we call iterative and incremental approach to deliver projects, right? So this one in Agile project, you don't need to know, does not require upfront planning. Like you don't need to do a lot of documentation here. Just few things that really concern that project you need to know, right? Few information gathering from the stakeholder or the owner of the project. So let's assume now we are using Agile to build a house. Of course, I'm not saying it's possible actually, but then let's say we are using it to build a house now. I don't need to get the whole information I need like about that house, how it's going to look like, the color of the paint and everything. No, I just need to know maybe is it a one bed or bungalow, or is it a duplex, stuff like that. Then I will continue with my team. So along the line, I continue like we continue interacting with stakeholders, and we're getting more information about the project as we proceed as we progress inside the project. And with that, we'll be modifying things and making changes, right? So and the changes here is not really is easy to do, and it does not really uh involve a lot of waste, and it's not really expensive, right? So it's flexible in the sense that you can adapt to make changes even at 9 minutes towards the end of the project, right? So over here you can see the picture how it's done. So in Agile, kind of a cyclic iteration. We're talking about cyclic, like you build small, right? So and different between Agile and waterfall here. From looking at it, you can see in waterfall you have only one final outcome. That is at the end of every step. That is where you can produce your, the final outcome or the major goal while you are building, following all those processes to deliver that project, right? You only see this at the end of the project, right? Now, but in Agile, if you are using incremental approach, which is, like I said, Agile uses iterative and incremental approach. So iterative now means cyclic, that is sprints or, so as it that's to say that all this plan, everything here, plan, create, review, and all that. Everything is combined in one. Like you combine the whole of this in one iteration, right? In one cycle, and in every cycle you need to you are supposed to have an outcome, right? You can see this is a smaller outcome. You build a small thing that something small thing will appear or kind of have a small outcome at the end of this uh first iteration. Then you move again because you are producing small until we get what we want as final outcome. The next one you produce, you go the same route again, like you repeat what you did in the first one, and you get another outcome, which is two. Then you continue doing it until you get to the final outcome, which is this. So you can see if waterfall you only produce one, right? But in this one you can produce multiple, small. You're building them small until you get to where you are. So it's just like, let me use a local example now for this sprint. For instance, you are laying blocks now, right? Let's say you are building a house. So the first day you came, you lay a block, right? Let's say you lay like maybe the foundation, you set like 2 coaches of block. Of course, you can see that, of course, the house is moving. You've produced more increment there. Now, the next day, the messing guys, the bricklayer, they came again, they lay another block, do the same process, like mix cement and all that. They lay another block. You can see that it's going up, the building is going up, right? So the next day they do like until they complete the building, right? So you can see they are doing it, the cycling, a repeated process, right? So that is what Agile project management is all about. Sorry, Agile methodology. Now, the next one you must have heard about is hybrid. What is this hybrid? Hybrid is simply talking about you combining two methodology in a project, right? So for instance, you want to build a project, and let's say you want to build a drone project. A drone project requires hybrid in the sense that you have the agile aspect of it, and you have the waterfall. So what is the waterfall doing? The waterfall, when you have to build the component, the physical components you can see, all those mechanical parts, assembling or designing of all those things, it has to do with waterfall. Now, take for instance, your laptop that you are using is actually a hybrid, because the laptop has a mode that was like designed, people that designed the frame, the keyboard and all that. So the button, all these physical parts you are seeing, it was being designed with a waterfall approach. Somebody planned it, they prepare a mode, to mold this shape and all that. So yeah, so that part is the waterfall there. Then the hybrid, the agile part of it has to do with software, right? The software in it. So that is how this thing works. Now, having known this, now let's go down to see uh what we have again here. Now, so like I said, told us earlier that before the birth of this agile, right? software projects is being delivered using waterfall methodology, right? And this project, people have been using it in the early days, before the birth of this agile software, agile methodology, which came up around 2001, right? Now, how is it done? I'm going to have a kind of a scenario here, which I call example. Now, let's take, for instance, now, you want to bake a cake, right? Let's say you do bake a cake. Let's say you are this person, or let's say I bake cake, right? And I have a close friend whom I already know, his kind of his favorite stuff, things he like, and maybe his birthday is coming up, right? So because I know him very well, he's my close friend, and I know maybe his taste and everything. He has already told me everything he needs, right? Now, I so for me to bake this cake now, all I just need to do, I need to go to market, right? Buy the ingredients and everything I need. Then come, I mix the flour, maybe the color and everything. The next thing I heat it up, do everything and the cake is ready, right? Now, when this cake is ready, I will present the cake to you, right? So in every project you do, you need to, consider what they call risk. What is the risk that that project will, be successful or fail? Now, for instance, this is a simple project. Like remember I told us waterfall, you can use it to deliver a simple project, right? Simple project in the sense that the goal, it has a clear objective. Of course, he has a clear objective here. In the sense that it's my friend, he already told me, like he's one person I know very well. He already told me kind of cake he wants. He has given me the explanation, and I know whatever how I'm going to get that. I go to market, get the stuff I need, and I bake and present to him. Of course, he's going to accept it, right? So now coming to the band, this thing I put here is the risk that this project will fail or become successful. Now coming to demand here, the demand is only the person that is demand. It's only him that is demanding this cake for me. So we can say, so is he going to accept the cake or not? Of course, he's going to accept the cake. That means the demand is low, right? Because he's the only person. Now delivery. Now, am I going to give him this cake and he will meet his expectation and all that? Of course, yes, because he already told me the everything he need, and I know him. Of course, I've been doing this for years and all that. So the delivery of this cake now is actually the risk of delivering this cake is low. Risk means that I deliver what he actually wants. Yes, it's low. I can do it because why? He's my friend. I know him personally and everything. So delivery risk here is low. Now, because so we can say since the overall risk now is low, that is to say that this project will, it will be successful, right? So now because this project will be successful and we're using what they call what's it called? Can say waterfall. You can also see it as a cannonball approach in the sense that this thing I draw here, like this is the target. Okay, let's say this is me now trying to do a hit a target. This target now. Of course, I'm going to take it stretch, like hit it once, right? That is what this process I did here to bake the cake, which is this cake now, right? So this process I just use here is what they call waterfall predictive approach, right? You can only use this to deliver maybe uh, let's say this is a simple let's say particular the person you know very well, the a clear objective of it, right? So the same way, this thing I did here, it follows this sequence, right? So if you have heard of software development lifecycle, this is actually what happens in software development lifecycle. So if you are using Waterfall to deliver a software project, this is how it goes, right? The first thing you have requirements, right? Then the next step is design. Then from design, implementation. So we're talking about coding here, verification, that is testing and other, you release. So this requirement stage now, this is where the business analyst now they will gather the requirements, of course, the requirements from this cake, the person celebrating the celebrants. So I'll go to market as the business analyst, get the requirements, every information you need from this person. You gather these requirements, right? Now, when he's done gathering these requirements, the next thing he will need to pass these requirements onto to the design team, right? The design team will design based on the requirements, the objective that this person has specified, right? So when they are done designing, of course, remember that this thing does not happen at the same time. This requirement gathering of requirement could take like months, right? This one also taking like months and all that. Every step here, this one could happen like 2 months, 1 month, 3 months, and all that, right? So when design team are done designing based on this requirement that details they have, they move it onto the development. That is the software developers, now people that are coding. So these guys will not implement. They will not implement based on what they have designed. Remember, they are designing like there's nothing like changing and all that. So they are giving assumption that there's not going to be any change here in this process, right? So these guys will design and when they are done design, they move it to the tester. So the tester will now test this thing. So when the tester do the testing and other analysis, so let's say this is successful. So at the end, we have this birthday cake, which is this final stuff here that we have. This is the final outcome we're going to have, right? So during using this process, you need to make some assumption that we can figure out everything that we, like I said, of course, you're able to get every detail you need, every information you need for this cake upfront, right? And you also assume that there's not going to be a change during this process, that everything that is a requirement business analysts are going to use actually what is going to work, and whatever design team has designed, actually what they are going to implement, and there's not going to be any modification later in the future and all that, because if that happens, it's going to cost us a lot, and it may also sometimes lead to this project failure, right? Now, in those olden days, they have been using this method to deliver software projects, but something was happening when these guys are using when they are using it to do. One thing that happened most was that there was usually a delay, right? It takes a lot of time to do all this in days, months, and all that. Sometimes we have a project lasting 1 year before they can deliver the final product. Then, secondly, is that it requires a lot of documentation. You can see, do a lot of documentation here, and this thing takes a lot of time. Most times, the business analysts will document a lot of things, a lot of features that they may not even use for this project. At the end of the project, they may not even make use of it, right? Because it's a waste. So it takes a lot of time. And then, whenever there is an error, let's assume and they don't know if they won't discover if there's any error until they get to the final stage. And when you get to the final stage, let's say this is the final stage, you've passed through implementation, design, and all that, and you've got to the final stage to discover that this thing that we built, actually, that is not, there's a component that is missing, and maybe it happened at design stage, right? So that is to say that for us we have to like kind of rework, a great rework here by going back to the last stage to go and leave earlier state to go and get this, to make that correction. And of course, here, if you're using waterfall approach, a lot of things happens here. Change is very, very expensive here. A lot of it is very, very expensive. And sometimes, so the software developers, they find this, that whenever that, they are going back to this initial stage, or to make changes, like kind of climbing back this step again to go and correct something, they see it as a failure, like that software have failed. So that is to say that using this approach, it's, a lot of software project that was delivered using this approach, actually it failed because of this methodology. So because of this, some software developers have been they feel so worried about this approach, that this is actually, it's taking a lot of time, and it's not giving them exactly what they want, right? So that leads to what, so because of this approach, so they have to start making research, how can they modify it, make better improvement, and deliver software in a very easy way, and something that is not going to give them a lot of stress and all that. So because of that, some developments in the state thinking, and come up with the idea. Of course, we'll get to that stage, right? So now I'm going to have another example here, which I also did. For this one, I call it predictive approach. Now, remember the first time I said that I have let's say just one user, like just a friend. I bake cake for that person, my friend, and he likes the cake and all that. So because he likes the cake, and I felt, okay, fine, I think I need to take up this as a business, right? So now, of course, for me to do this as a cake business, of course, it means I'm going to satisfy like different customers with different tastes and varieties, right? So that is what I'm going to show here now. Now, I say, let me try this approach again, right? Because I have numerous customers here, people from with different tastes, different kind of cake. It will be difficult for me to, satisfy them, right? To satisfy them using that same approach I used initially, right? So now, because there are different users, like many customers here, whom I don't even know any of them. Like I'm using that as a business now. So I want to open a cake business by producing cake and selling to people. Of course, so doing this now, observing the risk that I'm going to, if I observe the risk here, the risk that is involved here. Of course, the demand is going to be high because I have a lot of people to satisfy, right? So that means the demand for this cake is high, right? Now, the delivery now, will you be able to deliver this cake, like meet their taste, what they want, meet their taste, and the size and everything? Of course, no, because I don't really know what they want, right? So if I decide to produce this same cake the way I did it the first time, produce a lot of cake and keep, of course, it may turn out to be that maybe when this customer, when a customer comes to buy cake and look at it, say, no, this is not what I want, right? So that's a delivery risk now is going to be high because I don't really know, like I don't have a clear goal, like a clear objective of what each of these customers want, their taste, right? So doing this, it will be difficult for me to deliver these projects, right? So because of this project will fail. If I try anything like this to certify multiple customers without knowing their, their what's it called, their test, that's their objective, having a clear objective of what they want, right? It will be difficult for me to give them exact, satisfy their test, right? Because of that, this project is going to, if I use a cannonball approach, which is a waterfall, the way I did the first example, this project is going to fail because many buyers will come to my shop, maybe try the cake and they will not like it, right? And they will even tell me and they will just go. And of course, I'm going to lose money in that approach. So that's to say this project will fail if we use that approach. But how will I make this project to work? What do I need to do? So for me to do this, to get this, build this, produce, make this cake business work for me, what I need to do, I need to produce a very small, let's say maybe one cake, right? Remember I said it's a business. I just need to produce just one cake, right? When I produce one cake and maybe a customer comes to buy and they will buy the cake. Then I need to request for a feedback, right? So the feedback is this. Now I want to ask them, boss, how do you like did you like the cake? Was my, was he able to meet your taste and all that? Was our, everything we did you like the cake and all that? So the person will ask, the customer will not give me feedback. Remember, I've explained waterfall by telling us, but this one will fail if I use waterfall because I've met multiple customers who I don't even know their taste and all that, right? So it's complex for me here. It's a complex project. Now, I will need to, for me to deliver this project, to succeed in this project, I need to adopt what they call adaptive or agile approach to deliver this. How do I do it? I need to produce small cake. Let's say maybe produce just one cake, right? Then sell it out, right? When I sell it out, I will need to request for feedback from this, whoever that bought the cake, get feedback from this customer, right? So when I get the feedback, possibly the customer will tell me, this cake, I don't like the icing was too much, it was low and all that, right? I will gather the feedback, right? I'll, use this feedback I've gotten from this person, maybe use it to modify, like go another process and modify, do the same way and modify the cake, maybe reduce things and maybe add some things, right? So doing that, that is what we call agile approach or adaptive approach. Because now to deliver this, we're going to use what they call iterative or an incremental approach to deliver it. So over here, I explain how it's done. So now for this process, I will kind of build a small cake now. This is the first cake I produce. Of course, I produce this cake and I get a feedback from the users, how they see the cake and they say they like it. Then I'll have to take their feedback and use it to produce another one by adding maybe making some modification and all that. I continue doing it this way. This is the only way I can satisfy this customer, right? Now over here, I try to explain what is incremental and iterative approach using clear picture. Now, iterative approach means you are repeating what you have done before, right? You are making some modifications, maybe to add one or two things. Now, if you look at this first picture, right? This first picture here, you can see that this person hand is maybe let's say is smoking, right? Now, this is iterative. So this is the first cycle. See it as this first cyclic now. Now the second one, maybe the customer said, no, I don't want this hand to be here. I want the two hands to join together, right? So I take that information from the customer and I go back again. I do it this way, right? So I come back for the second one. The customer says, okay, no, I don't like this color. I need you to turn the color red and the head, something like this. That is this third one. I go again. That is iteration. I'm doing it, repeating what I've done. But this time I'm making some modifications, right? I go again. I do it this way until maybe I come again. It says the same thing until I get to the final step, right, which satisfies the customer. Now we now end the stop there. Now coming to incremental. Incremental means you are building bit by bit, right? You're producing something small that at the end of the form to make the final part of the project you need, or the final thing you are trying to build, right? So now coming here, incremental, you can see the first time we produce, which is small here. You can see it's small, right? We go again, we produce a bigger shape, right? Then we go again, we produce like this and do the same until we get to this approach, right? So this is what we call adaptive or agile approach, right? So now, how did this agile come about? And who are the people that solve this problem? Because of the challenge I told us earlier that happened in the waterfall. So a group of software developers, right? They decide to hold a meeting to say, we need to solve this problem of this agile this waterfall approach that is not really helping us, right? We need to find a better way to deliver software projects, right? So on February 11, 2001, so 17 software developers, right, they met at in a place, right, to discuss the challenges they're having from this waterfall, which involve like a lot of documentation, a lot of upfront planning and all that, right? So they decided to, at the end of that meeting, they had their meeting for 2 days and they came up with what they call Agile Manifesto, right? So this Agile Manifesto now, it is what all the software projects you are seeing. Anytime you hear agile project, software project, all the agile projects are built upon on these 4 core values from this agile manifesto and 12 principles, right? So these are the basics. Anytime you are building a agile software, using agile methodology, you need to obey this core value, and you need to follow these core values and these 12 principles, right? So now, what are these core values now? They're telling us that individual interaction is preferred over process and tools, right? So what are they saying now? They means that now when the business, let's assume now the client and the people who are developing this project, they're having a close communication, right? They're always interacting and meeting, to see. So they prefer it over when you're, having a process, following a process and tools, right? Now, the next one, they say that working software is preferred over comprehensive documentation. What are they saying here? Now, they prefer you building it small, like giving them maybe in any phase, in any phase you release a software, like you release something, an increment that they can see, tangible something that can stand and make sense to them, like an increment, which is something like this, something like raising an increment in every stage, rather than preparing, kind of doing a lot of documentation. Of course, if any of you are working waterfall projects, you will understand that you have to do a lot of planning. Everything must be complete before you start even going to implementation stage, right? Now, the next one, we said that customer collaboration is preferred over contract negotiation. Now, remember, customer collaboration now, like I told us, if you're doing your sprint planning, right, let's say product backlog grooming, of course, you're doing product information gathering and all that. When you're doing your maybe product backlog grooming, if you're what's it called, the stakeholder wants to join, right, you can involve them in that meetings, right? So you need to collaborate with them all the time, from the beginning of your project until you deliver that project. Always be with them, collaborate with them in case there's any change that they want to make, right? It's preferred over your flowing contract negotiations, so you don't need to leave them aside. You always need to work with them. That is why in Agile you see that every small time you do sprint review, to involve your stakeholder, collaborate, and share maybe there's any modification you want to do. Now, the next one, responding to change, is preferred over following a plan. How do we respond to a change? Now, for instance, you're building a software, like maybe towards the maybe when you're about to release the software, and the stakeholder say, no, I don't really like this. Maybe I want to remove menu button, maybe add 1 or 2 features again. You're not going to tell the person, okay, no, we already, we've gone so far in this project, gone so far. No, we are not going to, follow that process. That we need to we need to go and do it in another project. No, you just need to obey your customer and respond to that change by maybe removing what say you should remove, or adding new features they want to add. The only thing that happens there is going to the time of delivering the project will change, right? So, but you must respond, even if at the time, at the end, towards the end of sprint, this happens. Of course, you need to respond to the change, right? So that is why it's important. Now, the next one we have here is the 12 principles. These are 12 principles guiding agile projects, right? So the first one, you need to certify the customer early. Of course, that's why you are releasing in agile project. You don't need to waste a lot of time. Whenever you start a project, of course, you plan short iteration to at least satisfy the customer early by releasing something, showing you something that he will see, right? Now, welcoming changing requirements. Of course, changes can come up anytime in the agile project. Of course, you are supposed to welcome it by, following, accepting it. Then next one, delivering working software frequently. Of course, releasing potential increment. That's what I just shared initially. Now, collaborate daily. Now, how do you collaborate daily? This is where we are having daily Scrum. This is where it's important, right? You need to collaborate daily with the people who are involved. Everybody who is involved in developing that project need to be meeting, like having a meeting. That's why in Agile project, if you're using Scrum framework, of course, you need to have daily Scrum, right? Where everybody collaborates, share, make quick decision and all that. This is why it's important. So if you ask why are we doing daily Scrum, this is the reason why I need to do daily Scrum. You need to collaborate all the time just to ensure that everybody is on the same page and all that. right? Motivate individuals, right? How do you motivate individuals? This is why now, for instance, sprint retrospective, during sprint retrospective, you have what they call, you are not only there to say, what went well, what no, you also do as a opportunity to celebrate your team, right? Acknowledge everybody's effort, even when you guys did not, have a nice sprint, a smooth sprint. Encourage everybody's input and all that, right? Now, there's another thing they call face-to-face conversation, right? In agile projects, right? It's it's important that you have a face-to-face conversation, right? So, how is this done? If you're working in an office space, the agile team, they used to have their like the way their environment is being set up, like it's a first to feel like they will cluster their chairs and all that. All developer like product owner, everybody will be there and Scrum master. You don't have anything like maybe in your office you have your GM have a different office, maybe project manager has a different office. No, that is their own hall. They can give them one hall and everybody will be there because they need to be seeing each other, always interact, all the time, right? But if you are using virtual like we are doing now, if you're practicing, it is always advisable that you on your cameras, right? If you see a lot of things that are doing agile, using virtual and all that, they always on their cameras. Why are they doing? Just because face-to-face interaction actually, says a lot, right? That is why we are doing now. Measure of progress through working products. Of course, through when you're using software, of course, that you measure your output. Are you guys making progress or not? All right. No, continuous attention to technical excellence, right? So the next one, simplicity is essential, right? So everything you are doing, it just need to be simple and all that. Then another one, have self-organizing team. Now in agile team, they are like self-organizing. When we mean self-organizing, they know who to do what at the right time, right? At the right time. You don't need somebody to come up to and tell you, you are supposed to do this. Like they know when to do what at the right, the actual time and all that, right? They need to be self-organized, right? Now, regularity reflecting on continuous improvement. This is where sprint retrospective comes in, right? So you make further improvements in the next week going forward, right? Do this. So those are every software project that you see is being built upon these agile values and the principles, right? So any software you're building, Scrum project and all that, you must follow this. That is why I just introduced, because it's very, very important that you know the basis where you are coming from. So whenever you're building a project, you should know that when the customer say, when you need to involve your customer and all that, right? So let's look at the next one. Now, in Agile, there's what they call, of course, Agile methodology. Like I said, is a methodology. And there are also other, there's what they call Agile umbrella, right? All this Agile umbrella is simply talking about other methodologies under Agile. All of them, they are still built upon this Agile manifesto. That is the 4 core values and 12 principles, right? These are other methodologies you can use to deliver Agile projects, right? You can see our Scrum here. Scrum, we use what they call Crystal, Kanban, SP, which means Extreme Programming, DSP, and all that, Lean, right? So these are some of the methodologies you can use to deliver Agile projects. But why among these methodologies, right, the most popular one, the widely used among all of them is Scrum, right? So that is why we are doing Scrum, followed by Kanban, right? So any Agile project you are dealing with, you can make use of any of it. But of course, the most popular one that you always see is what? Scrum. So that's why on this training, we are going to focus only on Scrum, right? So only on Scrum, that's what we're going to focus on. So below here, I define Scrum here in a practical way that revolve around, that covers everything that is here, right? That's the first definition. Below it, I have definition of Scrum Guide, like definition of Scrum from Scrum Guide, right? So I will define the one for Scrum from Scrum Guide first. So Scrum, according to Scrum Guide, Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people, team, and organization to generate value through adaptive solution for complex problems, right? This is Scrum Guide 2020. Right now, of course, when you're doing Scrum projects, I'm going to define it the way we really understand it for people who have passed through this training. Of course, the first thing you need to do once you want to start a project, first of all, you need to do what they call get the product vision, right? Draft your product vision, which is by getting doing information gathering from the stakeholder, know what they get a bit information about the project, and you start from product vision. You do what they call product backlog break, like you break down this product vision into product backlog, right? So and I'll continue this way. So that is why over here I define this Scrum like my definition covers everything here. I said that Scrum is the breaking down of your product vision to create a product backlog of smaller items And then splitting your organization to create a small cross-functional teams of between 3 to 10 people, right? So now, pause here. Please, in any Scrum team, whenever you're using Scrum framework, please, the minimum number you can have to start a Scrum project is 3, right? Why the maximum is 10, right? So of course, the Scrum team is made up of product owner, Scrum master, and developers, right? So the minimum you can have to start your Scrum project is 3 people. That's why I think I told some team, whenever you have up to 3 people, you have daily stand-up, you need to start. Don't wait for everybody to join the meeting, right? So I proceed then, furthermore, you break down your time to get the product to the market into 1 to 4 weeks of development cycle, right? 1 to 4 weeks of development cycle, right? To allow for small releases that build on each other until you have a product that is ready to get to market, right? Which is finished product. So now with this sketch, I'm going to explain everything about Scrum framework. Of course, like I said, if you want to do a Scrum project, the first thing you need to do, if you're using Scrum approach, you need to do a product vision by getting the information from information gathering. Under this product vision, here you're going to know the purpose of the project, that is the goal. Then you know your target audience, that is your customers, who are people who are going to make use of this project, right? The next one, you should be able to know the pain points, all right? Why did the customer want to build this project? That is the pain points, right? So the next thing you need to do after knowing the pain points, you now ask yourself, you ask all these people, how is their product going to, this product are building, how is it going to be different from what other people have built, right? How is it going to be different? Then the next thing you ask, how is it going to benefit the business, that is the company? How are they going to make ROI, return on investments, right? So as I said, your product vision need to contain 5 things. First of all, the product goal, right? Of course, the product goal, which is the purpose of product. Then the next one, the target group, which is your user personas, and the people who are that product is focusing on, right? Then the next thing you need to get the pain points, right? So you need to know the pain point. Then the next one, why is the product different from others? That is the feature. The features now, this is where you get the features. Then the next thing you're going to consider under this production is the business goal, like the objective for why they are doing, how are they going to make profits, right? So when you've gotten this, the next thing that you need to move now is what they call the person that is responsible for gathering all this. Like I said, in Scrum, you have 3 accountabilities or 3 roles in Scrum. One of them is product owner. The second one is the Scrum master. The third person is called developer. So now, who is product owner? The product owner is somebody who is responsible for maximizing the value of this product resulting from the work of the Scrum team, right? How does it maximize the value of the product? Is the person responsible for getting inputs, right? Getting information gathering from the stakeholder, right? What to be built, like you really want to decide what the team are going to build, right? Get the information from the stakeholders or the owners of the project will give information, feed them with the details of what they need to have on that project. You will now take it here, translate into what they call product backlog, which is what we are having here, right? So from this product backlog now, you will now, they break it down, it goes beyond what they call go to sprint planning, right? So during sprint planning, they do all this. Then the next person, which are developers. So developers, these are the people who are, going to build these increments, right? So these are the people that will decide how will this product be, how they're going to build this product, right? They are development team. So development team here, I want to talk about Scrum 2020 Scrum guy called them developers. They're no longer called development team, but if you call them development, no problem. Everybody understand what you mean. But 2020 Scrum guy, in case you're writing PSN1, they are called developers, not development team. Of course, you see the two answers there, but the right answer is developers. Now, developers consist of anybody who is directly involved in, producing that increment, right? So we can say, like now, if you're in a team, you have a software developers that maybe front end, back end, maybe software architecture. Then maybe you can have a UI UX team, the tester, that is the key. They are all involved in developing this increment. They are all called development team, right? So you don't say that developers is only the software developer. No, these are the people that are involved in building the increment. Now the Scrum Master, this Scrum Master is duty, has 2 accountability. Now one of them is to ensure that the Scrum team understand the Scrum framework. They follow it through the way it's written in Scrum Guide, and also ensure that team effectiveness, right, is the person responsible for team effectiveness. He coached the organization on, to follow strictly the Agile, the Scrum Pro framework, to deliver a project the way it should be, right? Now, that's Scrum Master. Then after that, after the product owner has breaking down these requirements or information he got from the stakeholder into product backlog, the next thing that happens is sprint planning, right? So during this sprint planning, two things majorly happen. One, the product owner will decide, what the team are going to build, right? So the team now, which are this development team now, will now say, okay, they will now draft a plan on how what the product owner has proposed, how is it going to be built, right? So that is why they will have a what they call so during this process now we have a they will not the development team will not break it that task, like do a task breakdown from what the product owner has told them. They'll break it down into what they call sprint backlog. Of course, what is sprint backlog? Sprint backlog contains the sprint goal. Every sprint must have a goal. Then the plans to deliver that work and the selected product backlog item, right? So people in class already know this. But if you've not had that, you still do that in class, right? So when they've done that, you have to break this thing down and also, plan, do the sprint, write the sprint goal and all that. Select in the duration of the sprint. It's going to be 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Most times it's usually 2 weeks. Of course, the disadvantage of having a long sprint is that it's, a lot of things could happen in the sense of the risk may increase. Maybe like a lot of certainty may be coming in. So that is why it's not advisable to have like 4 week sprints. But the maximum you can have in the sprint, if you're using Scrum, is 4 weeks, right? In Agile, if it's 4 weeks, right? So you don't go beyond 4 weeks. But most times, many teams normally use 2 weeks, right? So now they'll do this until they produce this increment. Of course, during that Scrum, we have what they call Scrum events. So the Scrum events start with the sprint. Of course, the sprint, which is actually the container, right? The actually the container of all this, right? So now the sprint now is time box. Every Scrum event has is time box, right? This time box for sprints. If you're making a 1 month duration, it's for 4 weeks, which is why you're having 4 weeks here, right? Now the next thing after this, the another Scrum event we have after sprint, the sprint is what we call sprint planning, right? Which is where the product owner decide, what the team are going to do, and the team will now select based on the plan they have to build it, right? So if you're making a 1 month sprint, which is 4 week sprint, this duration time box for sprint planning for a 1 month sprint, it is 8 hours, right? That is the standard. But if the sprint, you decide to plan for a lesser sprint, like 2 week sprint, duration may, likely decrease, like you reduce the time, the interval that you are selecting for it, right? Then the next event we have is daily scrum, right? So what is this daily scrum? Daily scrum is actually for development team. That is for the developers, right? Now, for developer, what is daily scrum? What do they do in daily scrum? During daily scrum, the development team, that is people who are involved in building implement, they come together to inspect, to inspect the progress towards the sprint goal of that particular sprint, right? They meet together to inspect the progress towards the sprint goal. And of course, why is daily scrum important that every scrum team must have, or everybody working in agile team must have a daily scrum? One of them is that it helps of quick decision making, right? It helps for team collaboration, right? That is to improve quick decision making. It helps for quick team collaboration and effective communication. It also helps to reduce other meetings, right? During in the daytime. But that doesn't mean that development they don't meet outside the daily scrum, right? So these are the 4 things that you need to know about daily scrum. Of course, that's why it's important. Now, the next event we have is called sprint review. So what is sprint review? Of course, sprint review happens when the time box of this sprint that you plan, let's say it's selected 2 weeks. Once the day the time box elapsed, that's the day you're going to have sprint review. So what is sprint review? Sprint review is actually where the stakeholders, maybe external or internal stakeholder, meet with the Scrum team. Remember, I told us Scrum team are product owner, stakeholder, product owner, Scrum master, and developers. They meet to inspect the outcome, this is the outcome now. They meet to inspect the outcome of that sprint, right? And also to ensure to see if they're going to make any changes by adapting making some modification in the product backlog. Right? That is what sprint review is all about. And the time box for sprint review for a 1 month sprint is 4 hours, right? But if it's shorter than 4 week sprint, of course, you can make it maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, depending. Then the last thing that close Scrum, every Scrum project, right? It's ended with retrospective, right? So retrospective is only for the Scrum team alone, right? You don't involve management team when you're doing retrospective. This is actually where the Scrum team now, they've ended the project, they've reviewed demo what they produced to the stakeholder and others. They feel so now next thing now the Scrum Master, product owner, and developers, they will join another meeting, have another meeting, whereby they will now look at what they do right in that previous sprint, what they get right, wrong, and all that, and also plan ways to make improvement against the next sprint. And also, this is also an avenue for the team to celebrate themselves. So please know, sprint retrospective is not only where you do what went well and all that. It's also an avenue to congratulate everybody for your effort, time being and all that in the last sprint. So when all this is done, it repeats again for a new cycle, right? Now you can see here there's a burn down chart. This is a matrix, right? So let me just quickly touch it. So burn down chart is actually showing the amount of work. Of course, in a sprint backlog now, you have planned for, developers have selected some work, right? So they've selected some work and they plan for that sprint. So this is where this chart now, the metric, to help you to understand how much work has been completed and to help to know how much work that is remaining in that sprint, right? For that sprint to for the development team to complete. So I want to show you something else here in case you're writing PSN1. Anything. Now, this backlog, now sprint backlog belongs to people they call developers. It belongs to developers only. And another thing, daily scrum. Daily scrum, the only people that are supposed to attend daily scrum are developers, right? So it belongs to them. The meeting belongs to them. The only person that has the right to manage the product backlog is the product owner, right? Except it delegates the task for somebody else to do, but it's the person that will hold accountable for anything that goes wrong here and all that. So in this product backlog, this is where you prioritize, the product owner will prioritize what is going to be built and all that, right? Then there's what they call product backlog grooming. Of course, it happens also in this place, right? So what is product backlog grooming? Product backlog grooming during this stage, what you do three things. It's whereby the product owner, have a meeting with it's done by the product owner and sometimes with help of the development, whereby they further break down this product backlog items into pieces, into more refined place that can fit for development to be able to work, deliver it in that sprint. And during product backlog review, three things are meant to happen, right? Three things. One of them is description. Developer now need to add description to each of the cards here, right? Each of the selected cards, you must add description to the card. The next thing that will happen is what they call you must order the backlog, of course, tell us what is going to build the first time and all that, that will come first and all that. Then the next thing that comes in, development team will now size the user story with selected product backlog items, right, into this sprint backlog, right? So this is how the steps you follow to deliver a Scrum project, right? I don't know if anyone have any question before I proceed to next thing. Any question so far before I proceed? Okay, so let's proceed. No questions so far. Now, this is actually a more elaborate, product backlog, the responsibility and all that, like what I explained earlier. So I'll move to the next one now. In Scrum, there's what they call, of course, we have Scrum events. There's what they call Scrum artifacts, right? So what are these artifacts? In Scrum, we have three majorly. So this artifact represents work of value, right? They are designed to maximize transparency of key information. So in Scrum, right, we have three artifacts that must be, you must follow or you must obey if you are doing any Scrum. Now, one of them is product backlog, right? This product backlog, this is where all the information you are getting from the stakeholder, this is where you translate them into, put them whereby, the product owner prioritize and all that. Of course, product backlog also can house, can contain bugs. It's not only user story that can be in product backlog. It can contain bugs. It can contain so many other things that can, happen there, right? Then the next artifact we have is Spring backlog. Of course, I said Spring backlog is a combination of Spring Go, the sprint goal. Okay, so the next one now, this next one is sprint backlog, right? So the sprint backlog is a combination of the sprint goal, the plan to deliver the work, and the selected product backlog items. That's all what can be found in sprint backlog. Then the next one, the next artifact you have is increments, right? That is the potential releasable increment that you have. At every sprint, you must release an increment, right? It's expected that the team will release an increment, right? Potential shippable increment, right? So that's the Scrum the Scrum artifacts. Now, these artifacts, right? They have commitment. Every artifact have commitment, right? So for product backlog, what is the commitment for product backlog? The commitment for product backlog is product goal, right? Every product backlog, there's a product goal inside. That is the sole aim of delivering this project. There's always a product goal in it. Then for sprint backlog, what is the commitment? The commitment means that what the team are going to focus on, of course, that must be fulfilled is what they call sprint goal. So every sprint, you cannot say you plan a sprint without having attaching a sprint goal, writing a sprint goal in it, right? You need to write your sprint goal because that is the commitment for that backlog. That is commitment for that development in what they are going to focus on, right? Then the next one now, the commitment for increment, that is the shippable increment, is definition of done, right? Later here, I will explain this definition of done for us, what it means. Of course, this is a board, kind of a Scrum board, the way it's written. If you're using a physical board, this is how you see it in progress and all that, right? So so this is also a process that I explained now. So below, I also have the time box. Of course, I've already explained this, how it's work and all that. Now, I'll go to somewhere I think that is very, very important also, right? So, of course, I've explained product backlog grooming and all that. Now, there's only something that I see that is kind of confusing to a lot of people in Agile projects, story point and time, all right? This story point and time is something I've seen that is actually confusing a lot of people, right? What is story point? Now, what's story point now? Story points are units of measure that are used for estimating the size, complexity, and effort of a product backlog item, right? So why time is what like you use to estimate the effort in terms of workload of the team, right? So story points are only used for user stories, right? Of course, look at what I did. I said here. I said that where can you use story point now? Look at for sprint backlog, you make you give a detailed estimate using time, right? Time focus here. For product backlog, that is user stories. Now, user stories, you use what they call you do a high level estimate using story points, right? So how does this story points work out? Now, when we're talking about user story, of course, a user story, when you are estimating user story, the reason why we are developers are using story point to estimate user story, you are not estimating the time or how many days it will take you to deliver that task. Story point is not the same as time, right? Time because story point is actually showing you, considering on three things, what are the risks involved in each of that user story, right? The complexity, how difficult, the volume of work required for that story point, like for that user story. Then the effort, like the whole development team, the effort is going to take all of them, right? Like how are they going to be able to deliver like all of them? Because each user story, I will tell you that each user story, you could have more than one developer or more than one developer working on a user story. So let's take, for instance, now, let's say this is a user story now. So if in this place now, this user story now, it could be that why we say one story point is because it's small. The volume of work here in this one is low compared to the volume of work that is the second one. And the same thing happens here. So the whole development team now, that is this front end, UI, US, and maybe tester, everybody will assemble together for them to look at this and say, okay, this thing based on the volume of work from the maybe acceptance criteria and everything, and the risk based on previous experience and all that, it's going to take them, they will say, okay, let's give it 3 story points, 4 story points, and all that, right? They will do that. So, but for time estimate, Time estimate is actually when the developers have broken down these tasks, talking about subtasks, and they've broken down this user story into pieces now. So everybody will now have his own part, right? So let's say now, this particular user story now, for this one now, you have, let's say you have a design team. A design team is here. Then the next person you have, let's say you have a front end is going to work on this same user story. Then the next person you have a tester, right? So these three people now, they will not break down this user story now. They will not, we're going, so using time now, they will not use time to estimate their efforts. The designer will not say, they will not, Scrum Master will ask design, how long will it take you to do your own part, right? To do your own part in under this user story here. Let's assume now this is a, let's say this is a login page. Let's say login page now. Let's say this is a login page. Of course, you know login page, you need to design the design widget and all that. Designer will say, well, it will take me 2 hours, it will take me 5 hours to do my part there, right? So that is the original estimate. Then the front end guy will say, it will take me 2 hours to implement this design. Then the tester will say, it will take me 2 hours to test everything that they have done. That is where timing comes in, time estimate. So you don't, story point is not the same as time. Of course, I think I've seen some people work that saying that one story point is equals to 1 day, right? One story point is equals to 1 day. For me, I don't think it's actually the same way, because if you say one story point is equals to 1 day, so you're telling us that one story point, so that is the volume of work here, the risk, complexity, and everything now, to take them 1 day to deliver, which is naturally not true, right? So the reason why we are doing story points is for use it to size user stories only. User story, not the task that you have broken down in the sprint backlog, right? So during the practical session, maybe the next session we're going to have, I will explain this better in practical way so that you see how this thing works, right? So this time estimate is what you use to determine the workload of individual team, right? Individual team, like that, the developers in your team is what you are using to determine how it's going to happen, right? So that's how the kind of difference. They are not the same thing. They are two different things entirely, right? Even if you check your Jira, you will see where they wrote it there, right? Now, another way Agile team, can do story point estimation. Of course, you do story point estimation, right? Using a technique called planning poker, right? So this planning poker now, who are people who are supposed to do what are the benefits of planning poker, right? So now planning poker, now the benefit of planning poker, you have the team, the team they learn more about what's involved, the team members learn more about each other, and also eliminate point sensitivity. What is this point sensitivity now we are talking about? Some points, so this is actually saying that, like, they don't want a session whereby one person will go and estimate for everybody that is in the team, right? Point sensitivity now. Let's say one person, like now, I know most of us have just one developer in a team, right? But in actual sense, you don't have one developer cannot estimate the whole story point for everybody, like use that story for every other developers in the team. No, it is not done that way. That is the essence they are using planning poker to eliminate point sensitivity, whereby just one person will go and estimate for everybody, which is not supposed to be so. Right now, how does planning poker works? Who are the people who are the people involved? Right now, the Scrum Master, duty of Scrum Master during planning poker technique exercises to facilitate the process, right? Why the product owner also can be present, right? But these two people are to appear as observers. Scrum Master facilitate the process. He is not involved in estimation. Product owner also is not involved in estimation, right? So people who are involved in estimation are developers. You can see developers are the only people who can estimate story points, not product owner, not a Scrum Master. Scrum Master is just there to organize, like facilitate the process and everything, ensure that there's a smooth and there's no conflict and all that. You are not there to estimate and all that, right? During the practical session, I will introduce another planning poker to us that you can use. Of course, some people that are here, but some people that are here already know that there's one we are using, whereby everybody, that planning poker will not allow you to, complete the voting until except everybody there votes. Of course, for me, that one is not really okay, because it's involved, if you are using it as a Scrum Master to practice, that means it's involved you to estimate, which is wrong, right? You're not supposed to estimate, right? So I will introduce another one to us that whereby Scrum Master and PO can enter as observers, while developers who are directly involved in estimation will now enter as players, right? So I'll give us that also. It's also a breakdown of how this is done. So during the process of planning poker, right? The product owner describe requirement. Of course, you have already done this during the sprint plan and all that, right? So developers will ask him question, he will explain further and all that. So when they are sure that they are comfortable with what product owner has described for them, then they now go to what they call now they want to estimate the backlog now. So what they do, each developer select a card, right? So there are so many ways they can do this planning poker. Of course, if you open planning poker, you can see a lot of template there. If you're working in an office space, your company may likely have a card, like some people use card like words, right? Some people use t-shirts. Of course, in t-shirts, you have a small size, extra large, extra small, large, medium, and all that. The way, so you can, I just illustrated it here. This one means we can say this one is like extra small. Then this one small and maybe extra large, okay, extra small, small, uh, large, medium, and extra large, like something like this, right? So they will you have everybody will not pick a card if you're working in an office space. But if you're not working in an office space, there's what they call, you can you're using Jira, like take all these software app and others. You can have other templates, like you can have Scrum, Fibonacci sequence, and all that. So we have to customize it and all that. So how did they do it? Now the developers will select a card. Everybody, Scrum Master of course, everybody is ready and all that. They will, when they are ready, they will flip their card and everybody will share their points. So this place now, point value agreements. When all of them, let's assume there are 5, all of them selected the same number. Of course, they have an agreement that the value is selected 2. That means everybody agree that 2 is the story point for that user story. The Scrum Master will go back to Jira and put the story point, 2 selected. But when they have points values agreement, this is where let's assume you have 5 developers here now. 3 selected, maybe the same number, and you have 2 other people selecting different numbers. So what you will do now as a Scrum Master, this is your job here. What you will do, because like 3 people agree that the user story point estimation for that one should be 3. But 2 people are disagreeing, telling you that maybe one selected 13, another one selected 5. So what you need to do as a Scrum Master, you ask the person that selected the highest number, can you tell us the reason why, what is your thoughts and why do you select all that? He will give you his reason and all that. The team will look at it and say, is actually wise or not. If the team feel that it's not wise, they will say, no. Majority carries the vote. They go, agree and do the same way. The same person, the second person, you ask them that person also why did they do that. They will give you all that, right? Until you arrive on an agreement. But remember, as a Scrum Master, you don't have the right to tell the development team when agreements arise. Of course, this particular time when this disagreement, of course, sometimes there's always a kind of a conflict that is about to come up. You don't have the right to go and tell them, okay, choose 5. No, the best answer to respond to them when this thing happens, after they have that dialogue and all that, ask them, so what is the way forward? You ask them, how do you guys want us to proceed? They will tell you, okay, either we are going to re-estimate again. They will tell you, okay, let us re-estimate again, or they will agree, okay, let us choose 3 or choose 2. Well, as a Scrum Master, remember, you're not involved in estimation. If you're practicing at a Scrum and like very well, you're not supposed to estimate for them. You don't have the right? So that is why what about planning poker is all about here. All right, so let's move further now. So I discovered that I discovered that in this project we've been doing so far, a lot of things have been happening. So I actually break down this to explain to us what has been, how our team has been performing, and let's understand that a lot of things, like when you are working in a team, that everybody don't just start, you don't have pick up immediately. You don't start, all of you don't come in the same pace at the same time, or maybe start to work smartly, smooth in a team. So that is what they call in every project or in any work you are doing. It's what they call team development model, right? So this development model now helps you to understand the stages of development of every team when they are doing a work, like whenever they are working, right? So we have 4 stages of development. Of course, Scrum Master, I urge you to understand this and have it at back of your mind. Because when you be managing projects, especially when you're managing tech startups, if you're working in a tech startup, you will see a lot of things, right? That is where you will know that people come from different backgrounds, right? And their experience differs and a lot of things happen. So you need to be able to accommodate everybody, understand their problem as a Scrum Master, right? So if you understand this Stockman development, you should be able to survive. You should be able to manage your team well. So the first stage that you have in every development team, let's assume now, I'll give an example with let's say which team will I remember now? Team Sweep Scrum, right? So their project now, the first time they start their project, they just brought them, told them that this is the project they're going to work on, right? They put them in the same group and WhatsApp group and all that, right? So now at this stage, people, all the team members, they assemble, they join the group and all that, right? But they are just like novice. Nobody knows what is going to happen. Like they don't know the actual, what is supposed to be done, right? They don't know the objective of the project. They just told them, this is your project, too, right? They don't have any guide yet, no guide on how to start or anything at all, right? So at this particular period, like the team will avoid conflict. Everybody will be playing nice, trying to understand, to see like so that they can understand the objective and goals of the project, right? So this is where they do product requirement, like gather, have a stakeholder meet, information gathering with the stakeholder and all that. So once they've gotten the requirements, right, that they need to deliver the project, of course, they've had the meeting with a stakeholder. He has told them what they want, but then they are still confused because the objective of the project is not clear to them, right? Now they are still confused and what next? What are they going to do? They don't know anything to do next. So this is where the Scrum Master, if this is your team, right? The Scrum Master, you're supposed to be with them all the time because you need to help them figure out the objective and their teams in and responsibility in that role, right? So for me, the way I work, if for instance this is a new team, and the first now just come to your team, I'll first of all introduce myself, drop a notes for you guys on how to, the first thing that you need to do, give you step. So doing that, I'm trying to guide you guys, give you the essential information that you need to figure out the roles and objective, right? I'll give you the step on what you need to do, how to interview the stakeholder and all that. Then after that, I will drop a template for you, right? Giving you a guide also on how to, proceed with your team, right? So when I'm doing that, that is because you guys are in forming stage, right? That is the forming stage where you guys are, right? So the forming stage of as a leader or as the project support or as a scrum master, you should be able to always be with your team, right? Understand that these guys, they don't know anything yet. They need you all the time to deliver that project. And also things that happen here, of course, it's happened to one of the teams in my, people are managing. Frustration can arise. For instance, if they stand for so long and they don't have any help, nobody to guide them on what to do, show them way and all that, they will get frustrated, right? So once they get frustrated in that project, they may end up, maybe the project might delay or they may even abandon the project, right? So as a Scrum Master, if you're working in an agile space, as a Scrum Master, you must understand this. Always stay close with your team, right? Because it's your duty to ensure that they are effective. If you go to a management and report that your team are not, they are not responding, everybody will be laughing at you because it's your duty. Why did they hire you? They hire you to manage them, coach them, bring them up to until, they get to the stage. Now, when they have moved from this stage, once your team have moved from this stage now, like I've given you information, the scope and all that, you've moved out from this stage now. Of course, now you guys have understood the objective now. You already know your whereabouts now to do. The next stage now is what they call storming stage. At this stage now, this is where conflict will start coming in. What will bring in this conflict? Arguments. People will be saying, everybody, because you guys are from different background, everybody will be showing trying to showcase their skills, right? That me, I've learned project management before. This is how I used to do it, right? This is how I used to do it. And this one said, no, this is not what I was taught. From where I came from, this is what I used to do, right? So, and this particular stage, it will affect your project goal, right? It will affect the team performance because everybody's trying to bring their differences, their working style, and how they were taught, like from previous experience and all that. So combining all this, they will be having clash. This one will not agree with each other, and this one, doing that, it will affecting the project, right? Let me give you one simple scenario. When I was in year one in school, there's what they call, I did mechanical engineering actually. So there's this lab that we used to attend together, chemistry, they call it Chem 101. I think the practical class. So during my team, they group us 10-10 in a team. So when we are to do I think, quantitative analysis. So me, I brought out my idea from what I was taught in secondary school and all that. One of my team members said, no, this is not what I was taught to. You know that I used to sleep in lab that time. The guy told me I used to sleep in lab as the lab prefect. I slept in lab several times, that he knows everything and all that. We argued and argued. Lab that was supposed to take us 1 hour. This thing took us, like, we didn't finish up everything. Like we just have to rush. We got endpoint. We said, no, this is not the endpoint. Like everybody was trying to bring their own idea. It is normal in team, right? Because why? We came from different background and everybody is trying to show, prove their own working style, right? But at the end, it will delay the project one and we may not have a good result. But you know that day, when the results came out, when the mark came out for that project, for that test, we got like we had the lowest score. And it was when we had the lowest score, everyone now kind of we need to sit back and follow one step and all that, right? So at this stage, this is where what will happen. I think there's one thing, some people they met some people newly, right? So in a team. So in that stage, people will be bringing their own idea. This is what I know before. How about we do it this way? They were kind of having arguments. So now it is the role of the leader now, the scrum master, whoever is their manager or their leader in that team. You need to be very accessible to them, right? All the time, all the phase of that period, you need to be very accessible to them. So this is what you need to take note of. You need to be very accessible to your team so that they will always, see you for you to be putting them through on what they need. Then the next thing that you need to do, you need to ensure that the team members have a clear idea of what they are working on, their responsibilities. Everybody understand their responsibilities. For instance, now, I think I've had a situation whereby somebody was asking me as a PO, as a BA, what are they supposed to be doing and all that. So the team lead now, the scrum master, you should be is ability to be telling them, okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Developer, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Scrum master, this is your job. Product owner, you have to gather information from the stakeholder and all that, right? Then the next one, this particular stage may require individual coaching, right? You need to be coaching your team members individually. Like for instance, let's assume you have developers here who is just new to Agile, right? At this stage, you need to be having an individual meeting with the person, maybe telling them how to deliver their work effectively, what to do and what not to do, right? So you do all this in this stage. Now, when your team have moved out from this phase, now the next phase they will get to is what they call norming stage, right? So at this norming stage, now this is where the team, of course, they've already, like I said earlier, we made mistake in that practical and had a very low score. So after making that mistake, all of us now realize, this is not going to work this way. We have to agree on a particular plan just for us to pass, be able to pass. So that is where the norming stage comes in. Norming stage is where the team, they will not start understanding each other. Everybody wants like to accommodate their lapses. They will not have to follow a single plan, to contribute to deliver that particular project safely. So using our project team work now. So now at this stage, now let's assume they've had their arguments at their stage, and everybody now let's assume after their first sprint, they will now say, okay, let's focus on maybe that first sprint failed, and they say, we have to follow this particular idea, right? So everybody will now relax because they already know the idea, the objective, or the goal of that project and all that. They will now decide to follow a single plan, right? And also be helping each other, to be maybe calling each other to interact all the time, right? Like there's one thing I think in Swift, they always need to interact with developers, stakeholder, tester and scrum master. They always have meetings together. So at this stage, what the developer need, the leader or the scrum master need to be doing here, you are helping the team to come to decision for themselves and learning to complete their task as a unit, right? So this particular time, you are there just helping them to make a final decision, right, on how they can get a good project. So in this stage, once my team gets to this stage in this Learn with Pride project, this is where you see me. I will start teaching you. I will not be, I will not be telling you guys about user story again or how to run sprint, but I don't know, you guys already know it. What I will not be doing, I will not be teaching you all this Jira, how to advance Jira and all those things. I will not come in and be teaching you, right? So this place now, sometimes I can decide to come to a meeting. I will just be asking you guys questions. So let's discuss, right? Because I know that you guys already know the basis, right? I will not be telling us, let's discuss. What do you understand by this? And we'll be sharing ideas together because we have already passed that stage. So my duty here is not to be coaching you guys. Instead of asking you the right questions, I'll be coaching you people on the things that you think you don't know. Right? Then the final stage now, which is performance stage. At this stage now, the team, they are stable and the goals are clear to them. Of course, everybody knows what they are supposed to do, right? At this particular stage, so this is like when you guys have had like first sprint, second sprint. I don't need to be, always be in your team because you already know your Scrum Master PO, everybody knows the step to follow and everything. Everything is clear to you. So what I just need to be doing here is to ensure that you guys are, telling you best thing that you can do, be creative and learn more things, new things and all that. Right. So these are the stage you need to, as a Scrum Master, you need to understand this. Every project you are delivering, every agile project, every work you are doing, your team passes, they pass through these 4 stages. And if you're able to understand that, you should be able to know how to resolve conflicts among your team once conflicts start resulting. Then the next one, now, this is very, very important that you know this, right? As a Scrum Master or somebody working in Agile space, let's take for instance, you have a team that are very new, like they're very, very new to Agile projects, right? How do you, and you're a Scrum Master, you're hired to, to coach this guy, to transition these guys to Agile. Of course, let's assume these guys, they have been delivering, let's assume marketing team now, they have been using waterfall approach to deliver their project. But they find out that, we need to change approach and go to maybe what they call, uh, need to transition to agile methodology, right? Of course, they are entirely new to to that system, right? So and you're being hired as a scrum master to transition these guys now. How do you measure their team maturity in Agile? That is where this thing comes to. They call it Agile maturity model, right? As a Scrum Master, you need to know this. There are so many models, but I think this one is actually simple for you to understand how this model works. Now, also know that if you want to transition, if you ask how many months will it take you to transition a non-agile person to non-agile team to agile, agile team, please, I think the minimum is 6 months. You cannot transition somebody in 1 month into agile project, agile space. Why is it so? Because you need to take it gradually. You don't need to come and impose work to them, like do this and all that. Let me give you an instance. There's one project I'm managing, right? I'm the lead project manager. When I joined the team, they are using a waterfall approach to deliver the software projects, right? Everybody in there, like developers, they know how to code, write their code and all that, but they don't know anything about anything that has to do with sprint planning and all that. Everybody just work, schedule meeting. They'll just select whatever they like and start, start building and all that. Right? There's no priority, given to anything and all that. So this team, it is obvious that they are totally new to Agile, right? They know that they can code, developers can code, designers can design website, using Figma and all that. But how do these guys communicate? There's no much collaboration, no much communication. So it is your duty now, of course. And that stage, I know that my team, they are crawling, right? So I know that they are new to Agile, and it is my duty as a Scrum Master, to ensure that these guys, they do the best thing, like they get the right thing by teaching them, teaching them what Agile is all about, holding the seminar and all that, kind of imparting knowledge to them and all that, small, till they get to the flying stage, right? So now, Agile maturity model now, it says that an Agile maturity model is a tool that helps team assess their Agile capabilities, right? So when you are using a maturity model, also helps teams choose helpful performance goals. By doing so, you can improve skills that will advance your Agile maturity. Agile maturity models can help manage projects in any sector, right? So now, this model now has, this model is being, done in 4 stages. It's saying that if you are new to Agile, like Agile environment, Agile project, you need to crawl. Your team will be crawling. And when they are crawling, there's a behavior that they're supposed to be behaving. Of course, people who are new to Agile, of course, my teams, yeah, when you guys are new to Agile project, like, let me say teams, uh, Scrum Sync, right? When they are new to Agile project, of course, there are certain behavior that they will be showing because they're not exposed to it before for the first time. So the first behavior that if the team are crawling, let me show this from comment. Oh no, sorry. I want to show this from more visible place. Now, so when the team are crawling, right? This is a agile maturity framework. Can you see my screen, please? Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello? Okay, thank you. So now, when you are in agile, when you are transitioning team to agile, of course, you need to measure how your team are they making progress, right? How do you measure your progress? You need to draft what they call agile maturity framework, right? You can see this is the example I gave there in that slide, but it's not clear. I need to show it in a very So I drafted this, what I call a maturity framework for web development team at PZ Technologies. This is the company, right? So now, like I said, if the team are crawling, the first thing that will happen during the crawling stage, they have to, have some certain behaviors. Now, the first behavior you need to observe, they are crawling, the team are crawling, you have to consider, we say inconsistent and reactive approach to development, right? Low accountability and ownership of tasks, right? Now, if they are crawling, so now let me take it back to our team now. You can see if the team are crawling in agile approach, that they will, people will not be attending meeting all the time. Low participation will be there. In fact, you don't even know the approach you're following. You just be jumping step, jumping the stages and be doing a lot of things that you think is right? For instance, I remember like there's one thing, that they ended their sprint, like they did their sprint review a day even before the sprint ended, which is wrong, right? Because they are new to it, right? Of course, I know they are crawling, right? So now they practice, during practice, now you'll be seeing, this is for development naturally, right? You can see minimal code reviews and quality assurance. So I did this for development team, that is developers. Now, you see that during that stage, when they are crawling, they don't know that they are supposed to review their code or somebody's supposed to review their code. They just need to write code. When they write their code, they just move it to done. Nobody's that, like, they don't care about reviewing code. It's not like quality assurance, that is testing and all that. The another problem they have is that during practice, you see limited use of version control and all that, automated testing. Now, the norms now, of course, what will always occur. So you see acceptance of frequent bugs and defects as a norm, right? Limited focus on code maintainability and scalability, right? What is going to be the outcome of this? The outcome now, of course, in this stage, you are going to have high bug counts and frequent production issues, right? Low customer satisfaction due to poor quality deliverables. It is normal because why they are crawling, they don't know it. So now I'll consider this outcome now, translate to back to our project now, our practical session now. Now, I remember there's one team, I can't remember their name, but I know there's one team during their sprint review, they performed poorly, so poor in the sense that, the somebody was just reading, they were reading, not even them, doing demo and all that. So it's because they are crawling, they are new to Agile, it will affect their sprint review, the way they do their review and retrospective, all these things will affect them. So now, as a Scrum Master, a project manager, of course, you know that your team are crawling. So you're documenting this. You know when you should be able to know when your team are crawling, and also when your team move from when they stop crawling and start working, right? When they start working, of course, they are moving to another ladder, right? That means they are making progress. So if your team is working, the working state now, you see they will start developing sense of accountability and responsibility, right? Of course, this time around, they start having this sense that I think we need to do this. But how do you make them to work to this stage now? You do this by coaching them, like also having scheduling meeting, organizing small seminars for them to like let them understand why Agile, why they are like the goal, why they are adopting this method and all that. So with that, from the mistake they made here, you use it to teach them so that they can make improvements in the next step, right? So you see, they will start developing sense of accountability. That is development team now, right? They're beginning to adopt more structured development practice, right? The practice now, you can see encouraging code reviews and knowledge sharing. So this time around now, they are reviewing their code. They don't just go and write code and leave. They'll have the patient to review their code, right? Then the norms, you see adopting basic agile practice like daily stand-up, sprint planning, of course, because you are teaching them all this, they will be adopting all this. Of course, it will, sticking into their memory that we need to do daily scrum, we need to do sprint plan and all that, right? They need to seek feedback from the stakeholders, right? Now, the outcome now, you can see fewer production issues and reduce bug because you have coached them from this error they made before. Now, this next sprint now, you will not see them that the bug, that like the issue, they will have less issues and bug, right? Because they are growing now. You can see they're making progress. Now, the next sprint that is coming now, you can see now. So, how do you know your team are flying? Because they've made some improvement during the retrospective, and you told them everything that they're supposed to do, and also have a separate seminar with them and all that. The next stage now, agile development, agile model now. The next step that you need to see is they will start running, like they're making much progress now, right? So once they get to this stage now, this running stage now, you can see they can collaborate very well, communicate very well within their team. Like this is where the self-organizing, the team will now become self-organized, right? They can now know who to deliver what at what time, and they are managing themselves now. They take ownership of task and accountability. Everybody is making progress. Now the practice now you can see, extensive use of version control and all that, regular conducting code review and implementing coding standards. So at this stage now, when they get to this stage, they will be the one calling meetings for themselves. Before they before they move any card to done, they will assign to somebody. Okay, you'll be the one to do code review. Sometimes they have a separate meeting to review their code to ensure that everything is smooth, no bug and all that. You can see. So the outcome now, you can see high quality deliverable with minimal defects. So they are making much progress. They are developing. So as a Scrum Master who is coaching this is how know when your team are making progress. Of course, at this stage, you'll be happy that, of course, these guys are already adopting agile method already, agile methodology, and they're getting better every day. So when they get to the flying stage now, of course, that high innovative and adaptive mindset, right? They can easily make changes and all that. Strong collaboration and communication across all organizations. That means this stage they are flying right now. The practice now, you can see agile practice are fully embraced and tailored to the team's need, right? So this happens Team Swift. I don't know if anybody is here. Team Swift and Innovator. There's one time I stopped attending your meetings, right? Because why did I stop attending their meetings? I know that you guys have already adopted agile practice the way it should be. You already know everything. Sometimes I just join your meeting to see what is going on. Like if you guys, especially when you're doing sprint, I'll just breeze in and go out again. When I see that you guys, because I already know that you guys are already in this flying level, right? You guys already know what to do at the right now. You're getting everything right. So I don't need to be always, join your meeting. Of course, I already know. So if this is my report, I already know that my team you guys are already in flying stage, right? So that is how all these things work. And if you are to manage, so these are the basics of agile project management that you need to know. For you to deliver your agile project very well, you need to understand this. This is for if you are transitioning team, people who are not agile, who are not in agile space before. If you are transitioning, this is what you need. You must understand this and know how they are making progress and know when you need to where you need to work more and where you need to add more effort, right? So all this, if you're able to know all these few things, I think you will be able to deliver agile projects very well. Know the basic, especially the agile manifesto. You need to understand agile manifesto very well, very, very well before whenever you're delivering any agile projects, right? Now, so this will now be the next stage now, the session 2 we are going to do. Of course, this is going to be a practical session for us, right? So I will stop here so we can take some questions and maybe suggestion and all that. So that is all I have for us for this night. So if you have any question, you can go ahead and ask. Thank you. Any question from anyone, please? Sorry, what do you mean by points? Oh, okay, you can unmute. I don't know if Mr. King is still on this call. Okay, let me do that. Mm. I'm not muted here. I don't know. Can you guys click on like the mute button so I can if you send request to the uh do you mean story points? Okay, so I think you mean story points. I'm coming. Okay, so let me quickly use a practical example to explain a story point to us, right? So I said story points, right? Story points, you use it for estimating user stories. What are you estimating? You are estimating the complexity, right? All the developers are involved in that, right? They use it to estimate the complexity that is involved in that work, in that particular user story. What are the volume of work that is involved to deliver that particular user story, right? Then is there any risk, right? These are the things that they put together to estimate. Why the time is talking about the efforts, the workload that is used to estimate the workload to take the developer, each of the development team who is involved, who is have any parts to play in that user story. The effort, the time it to take them to deliver their own particular parts, right? So you can make use of story point time when you are breaking down the user story into the sprint backlog, right? So I will show us an example now. Like I said, time is used to track the original time, the effort, the workload, or it will take the developers or whoever is involved to deliver that story point. Remember, a user story, you know, contains a lot of things in the sense that it does not contain only one person. So the user story now, user story contains a lot of things in the sense that you can have in that user story now. So let's assume let me share my Jira board to show you an example of what this thing is all about. Uh, Now this is what we mean, right? You can see these are user stories, right? These are user stories in the backlog, right? So these are user stories and all that. So I don't even know if I wrote any description in any of this card. This is just like what I used to teach some of my team members, right? Not in your team, but I use it for practical purposes. So I didn't write any description in here. So now story point now. Developers, all development team now. Let's assume this user story is telling us web registration page, right? Or this one is talking about full closure current system, right? So this full closure current system, a lot of work is involved under this, right? A lot of tasks are to be carried out to deliver this user story, right? Now, but development team, they will have to estimate this full closure current system using story point because they're going to consider the volume of work that will be involved in this story points. Sorry, in this to deliver this user story, and also consider the risk and maybe any other thing, right? So all the developers who are going to be involved, they will use story point to do that. But the next thing that is going to happen is what they call subtask now. For this user story now, this particular user story, they will have to break it down. Let's assume you have 5 development team now. You are in this project now. This 5 development team may have impact to play on this user story, this full closure current system. But how are they going to? How are you going to track their workload, or how are they going to share the workload among themselves? Remember, story point is for relative estimates, but by telling you the complexity, the task, like the risk, and everything that is associated to deliver this story, this user story now. The 5 developers, they came together and said, okay, let's use 5 based on from their previous experience and all that, right? But that doesn't tell us how amount of time it takes them to deliver this user story. It's not like that, so please. Now I'll open this user story. Now for me to see their time now, the time it will take each developer to deliver their own parts that will make up this user story. I'll open it. So when I open it now, you can see what I did here, right? That is where you now create subtask. Subtask, this is where you now break down the work now. They are not breaking down this work, this full closure current system. Now, the work they will not break down this work that are involved to deliver this full closure current system. Now, you can see the way I break it down. I said, in this place, they're going to do design. Please don't mind, there's no description. This is for training purpose. They're going to do design here, right? So who is going to do design? I assign the person that is going to do design. Yes, Stephanie will do the design, right?
Emmanuel,
Now,
are you sharing? They said they can't see what you're sharing. Are you sharing another slide apart from the PowerPoint?
sorry. I want to show them practical. Somebody's asking me to throw more light on story point. I'm sharing Jira, but sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
know that you have to.
and if you can unmute yourself if you want to ask any question now, I've disabled that.
Let me share. Stop sharing and share the other one again. Sorry, guys. Confirm you can see my Jira board now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. So now, let me go back to the slide. I said that for story points, right? You use story point to estimate, like use it to estimate the complex development in the use story points to estimate the complexity that that's involved in developing a particular user story. This complexity, the risk, maybe the volume of work that is involved in it, right? For instance, now you can see there's one story point, a 2 story point, and all that. So let's assume now developers. Let's assume we have 5 developers. So every user story have a lot of tasks, a lot of activities that need to be carried out for it to be delivered, right? That is where you have there's what they call definition of done and acceptance phase. So all those things need to be met before you can say that user story is delivered, right? So that's what they use story point to do. Why time? You use time after you have broken down the task in the sprint backlog, right? That is this ID here. Where is that Jira again? After you have broken down the task in the sprint backlog, that's where you use time to estimate, to forecast each of the developers, time, the effort is going to take them to deliver each of their parts that will make up that user story, right? So now I'll go back to Jira to show us now. This is a user story, web page registration. Of course, web page registration means that it has so many, like there's no description here actually. This is for practical purposes. Like I'm just using to train people who already know how to write user story and description, right? So now they use this, like this is the web page registration. So that means this is the user story that developers are going to work, right? So all developers involved, let's assume we have tester here, you have front-end engineer, you have back-end, and you have UI UX, which is a product designer, right? They are involved in this sprint, right? Because this is sprint, everybody works together, right? Now, all of them will now go to planning book and say, based on their previous experience, they open this card and see maybe the volume of work here, like there's no description here, but sort of acceptance criteria and everything. They will now look at based on what we have worked before. I think we can go with 3. A lot of people maybe they agreed to give it 3 story points. You assign it here as a user story, but that doesn't say that is the task, like the time. This is not the time it will take them to complete this user story. It's actually telling you the vote, like they're just estimating based on the complexity that is involved to deliver this task, right? Sorry, this user story. They are just estimating based on their experience and the volume of what that is involved here. They say, okay, well, let us give it 5. So most times they estimate it based on their previous experience with a particular, with similar project, right? So now, For them to break down this work now, for everybody to know what they're going to work on, like I said, we have designer here, we have a front end, back end, you have a tester. Now they will not go and break down this user story, right? That's where you have subtask. You not add what they call subtask here, right? You create a subtask, right? So I've created a subtask here. Right? You can see development, testing, back end, front design, and all that. So these are the guys now. This is where you must talk about time, right? Because you're going to use to check their workload. Don't worry, when we get to capacity plan, you guys, this thing will get clearer to us because you don't use story point. Of course, there are two ways to do capacity plan. Either use story point or timing. We are going to use timing because they're using to calculate their workload, right? The workload, each individual will ensure that they don't exceed their efforts in a particular sprint, right? Like you don't overuse them. This is where you do that, right? Now, development team now, we're not ask development team who is going to do this? Okay, you ask the developers what are the tasks that are involved for you to deliver this user story. They will not say, you need to do development, we need to create maybe okay, let's assume, let me move this thing up. Let me move this first one. So they will not say, you need to do design, no, you need to do design, you need to design the widget design, you need to design this web page registration, right? Now, designer, you not ask design the person who is going to design. They will tell you, okay, that's a G manual. You are the person to design. You will not ask G manual. So you will not open this card, this task now for this design person now. Of course, you know the person, you've assigned the name. You will not ask the person, open this card. When you open this card, you will see something else here. Below, you will see where they write original estimator. Sorry, original estimates. This is where the time comes in, right? You will not ask the person, the person now, bros, chief, how many hours will it take you to deliver it, to do this design? Remember, this is one sprint we are talking about, not in a different sprint. You're not asking how many hours or days will it take you. Of course, you guys are on 2 week sprint, so you need to ensure that not everything you guys are going to plan here will fall within 2 weeks in all this user story, all the sprint. Everybody, nobody's going to exceed, have work that will exceed 2 weeks, right? Now you tell you, okay, this one will say it's going to take me 3 hours, right? Let's assume this person will say it will take me 5 hours, or it's less than one day, and one day is 8 hours. So you say 8 hours, you say it's taking 8 hours to design this. You write 8H. If you write 8H, 8H means one day, right? Because it's using standard working hours. You write the 8 hours here, it's turned to one day, right? That is so that this person is to take him design 8 hours to design this widget, right? That to design this widget. You open again. Now you now ask let's say you have a front end guy now, which will come first. You ask the front end guy who is going to say, the front end said, okay, Sterling said he's going to do the front end. You now ask, open for Sterling. You go and ask Sterling, how long will it take you to complete the front end? Let's assume how long will it take you to do the implementation of this front end and do your own task? You say it's going to take him one day. Let's say it's going to take him 12 hours. Let me put 12 hours here. 12 hours here. Once you put 12 hours, it will turn. Remember, I told us one day is equal to 8 hours using normal standard working hours. 8 hours, 9 to 5, right? You put enter. Jira will translate it for you. This is one day, 4 hours, right? That is the original estimate for this guy, for this developer to complete the front end part of this job, right? Is one day, right? Now, the next person you go again, we are talking about timing now, right? Because I want to know their workload and all that. The backend guy, you assign the person, you ask the person, how long will it take you to do that? The person will tell you, you can see the time here, 1 hour, one day, 6 hours, blah, blah, you put all that. Then you go again. Sorry about that. Okay. Um, So you go again, you do the same for even tester. You ask the tester how long will it take you to test. Tester will give you, you can see 2 days. Tester said to take in 2 days to test everything here, 2 days, 2 hours, and all that. Right. So you can see below there's what they call time tracking. Time tracking now has to do with once you can log in this thing, when you start working on this is I'm showing you standard way to manage agile projects. This is standard way, not like as a scrum master, you must do all these things. Like when you're managing standard projects, this is where we understand when I introduce capacity planning, this is where you will now know the value of why you need to do all these things, right? To track your team and all that. Well, okay, I'm using company manager, I should be able to do this. Let's assume now the time, you can see time remaining is this time spent. Now this has this guy has spent. I can enter. He has spent 1 day. I can say, let's say 12 hours. Okay, he has spent this now. I will save. It will enter. Right, you can see he has done. You can see the time. I've logged in time now. Time tracking for this work now. Like because this person has there working in testing, and he has already spent 6 hours, 30 minutes. Sorry, he has already spent 1 day, 4 hours in this work. That means it's remaining 6 hours, 30. This is how you track the Scrum Master. This is where you know who is behind schedule, why is their work delay and all that, right? You do all this to know all this. So when you do capacity plan, and it will also help you to know when you overuse their developers, if they exceed their what's it called? If they exceed their limits, you should be able to know, right? This is what the essence of timing, right? So this is sample of capacity planning. Confirm you can see my Jira I'm sharing another screen now. Uh, Confirm you can see what I'm sharing now.
Yes, we can see.
So this is capacity planning, right? This is how you do it. Manual, this is manual one, right? But we'll get to this stage. So I will advise you attend the practical session. If you want to learn a lot of things, please do well to attend it, right? So I do this for my team. There's a team I have. You can see I put their names here and all that. You can see their name tracking and everything. So I will explain this that day. I'm not going to explain because of time. So I would, show all this, how we get to all these things and all that, right? You must do it. You must learn how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, how do you track your team and all that? Now I showed you time, how time tracking and all that. For me to know the workload now, to ensure that my team, because I planned this, I did this planning here with this capacity planning, right? Well, I'm not going to show you now because you start asking too many questions. We'll do it next time. Everything you are seeing here, you can see my team estimate here. This is their capacity. Now each of them, the front end guy now, his capacity here for this project, wisdom, is 54%, 54.68%, right? So if I anything that make it exceed this capacity, that means I've overused the guy for that sprint, right? So let's leave that for now. So with all this, that's how I did all this thing. So now, for me to know their workload now, if you go to dashboard, there's what they call, I think I created dashboard already for this. So I should be able to know their time estimate. Let me see if it's here. Why? No issue found. Oh, zero remaining. Okay, let's edit and see. I don't even know the title of that project. I'm coming. I want to share this so you see how it's done. Two-dimensional filter. No, that's not what I want. I don't know the name of this project. I think it's called. All right. So, of course, you're looking for assignees. Now, what do you want to check? I want to do the workload, their workload, that to know who I overuse and who still have, who can still take more work. So I want to take the original estimate now, update everything, and I will save. Let's see if it will update for me. Can you see something here? You can see now my team, the people you are seeing here, the names you saw that time, Stephanie, Eminem, Sterling, G Manuel, all that. You can see now. Now this one is telling me, Chukwugozie Emmanuel, I have my work now. You can see I have the plan work I'm going to do now is 1 week, 2 days. That is my selected work. And the percentage now is 23%. That means I still have more work to take up. Like I can still take up more work because it's a 2 week sprint and I have already spent 1 week, 2 days. That means I still have 3 days left. I can still accommodate more work. Now, this person, you can see coming here, you can see this person has 17%. That means 1 week and all that. This is how it goes. You do all this. So, as a Scrum Master, this is how you know your team workload. To know who has, who can take more. In case if there's a change request, if any change happens during the sprint, who will you assign more tasks to? This is how you know who you're going to assign to more tasks and all that, right? So that is how. Don't know if you have been able to understand how you can use time now, like how time is different from story points, right? So that is how to make use of time. If you're talking about timing, I don't know if it's clear. Hello, is it clear to you?
Yes.
I don't know the person that asked question. Okay, so any other question, please? Any other question?
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Um, um, from what you explained,
Yeah.
thanks for the explanation. From what you explained, I think invariably we can say that having story points before getting to time efforts, story points will help a lot, especially for developers to actually plan their time efforts.
Yes, yeah, it helps because they are people doing the work. So, like I said, most times they do based on previous experience, based on previous work they have done and all that. They should be able to know if they are using if it's a similar project, they should be able to know how how it will help them or do all that. And also it helps the product owner also to plan ahead, like plan for future sprints, estimate the duration of the work and all that with these story points. Right. Yes, yeah, what you said is also in line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. If no other question, that means I'm happy that I want to believe that we are convinced now, like we have more idea compared to what we've gotten before regarding agile project management.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ensure that we are on the same page. Please, can you react with a like emoji? Let me know that we are on the same page, please. So I can just end the meeting.
Yes, we are.
All right, guys. Thanks everyone for joining, and also maybe when the next one comes up, let's try to join so that we can learn more about it and try to become more effective. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good night.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. So the session has ended, right? Sorry, I'm not on the session. Yeah, so maybe we'll see, we'll continue from where you stopped. I think maybe next week or 2 weeks time, I'll see. It's supposed to be 2 weeks time, but let's see whether we can do next week. But I hope we've all been able to learn 1 or 2 things anyway. And
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
Michael here. Just a quick question. I attended the meeting a bit late, but I noticed it was recorded. Is there any way we can access the recording?
Yeah, I'll send you on the group by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So thanks everyone. Have a good evening. Yeah, we'll see you next week or upper one. Thanks. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.